First up, we have innovative. You get 50% innovativeness gain, which is really nice, along with tech discounts, and one of my favorite bonuses is the minus 20% advisor costs, which is super nice. The policies with innovative are pretty decent as well. You can stack advisor cost discounts, you can get 15% infantry compatibility with quality, which is really broken. Keeping all of this in mind, I think if you're taking innovative ideas, it has to be your first idea group. Otherwise, you're just not gonna get that much value out of it. I'd say this sits comfortably in B tier. There are better options out there, but this is pretty good too. Next up, we have religious ideas. Really nice if you want to convert your provinces faster. You also get plus 100% manpower in true faith provinces. And one of my favorite bonuses is getting the CB on neighboring heretics and heathens, which is super nice. The policies with religious is really strong as well. You get morale, siege ability, and additional missionary strength, which helps you convert provinces faster. I'd say this idea group is the first idea group that I'm gonna put in the S tier, just because of its utility and how useful it is in every single playthrough. Next up, we have economic ideas. You get some inflation reduction from loans, gold, and also reduces the chances of gold depleting, which is super nice. It has one of my favorite bonuses, which is minus 0.5 interest per annum. So regular loans are cheaper and you can take more of them. You also get 10% production efficiency as well as goods produced modifier, which is really strong as well. The policies with economic is really nice as well. The 5% discipline with quality and the 10% artillery combat ability with offensive is just insane. You don't really need this idea group if you're not struggling with goals and loans and inflation, but it does have some really good bonuses that I cannot overlook, especially in the policies. So for me, this is going in the top of C tier. This could be even in low B tier, I do get the argument for it, but I think I'm gonna put it in C. Next up, we have expansion ideas. Now this is an idea group that is a must take when you are colonizing. This gives you global settler increase, 2 colonists, a merchant, and a diplomat. The policies with expansion are pretty much around colonization, but they're pretty strong. Colonization itself as a mechanic is really strong and you can earn a lot of income from this. But if you're not colonizing or that just isn't your thing, this isn't really gonna be something you're gonna pick anyway because it's so niche. For those reasons, I am going to be putting this in the B tier because it's such a strong policy for colonization, but if you're just not going to colonize, this is useless. Next up, we have administrative ideas. This is a must-have when you're playing white and you want to blob. The minus 25% core creation cost is super helpful as it allows you to core provinces up cheaper and quicker. The 20% gov cap as a finisher really helps as well. The policies with admin is pretty nice, but I like the 5% core creation cost along with court ideas, which totals out to a minus 30% core creation cost, which is super helpful when you're trying to map paint and blob. I have to put this in A tier because core creation cost is just such an amazing modifier, and this is gonna help you no matter what your starting nation is. Next up, we have humanist. This is a must-have for a tolerant playthrough. You're almost always gonna take humanist or religious almost every single playthrough. For the bonuses, it has minus 2 national unrest, minus 10 years of separatism, which is really strong, plus 2 tolerance of heretics and heathens, along with plus 1 maximum tolerance of heretics and heathens. You also get 20% religious unity and minus 10% idea cost, which is super nice. You also get plus 30% improve relations, which is a nice modifier to stack when you're trying to avoid a coalition. The policies with humanists revolves around improved relations, years of separatism, unrest, and tolerance of heretics and heathens, which is super nice for a tolerant campaign. This has to go in A tier because it's super useful for any game. It's not as good as religious because it lacks the CB and morale bonuses, but it's super useful in its own right. Next up, we have infrastructure ideas. You get minus 10% construction cost, minus 25% construction time, minus 100% expand administration cost, and you also get minus 10% development cost, which is huge for its all campaign. Infrastructure has some really good policies. With indigenous ideas, you get an additional 5% dev cost reduction, which is super nice. And with aristocratic ideas, you get 10% gov cap, which is nice as well. I have to put this in A tier just because of how useful it is and how you can use it in almost every one of your playthroughs. Now that administrative ideas are done, let's talk about diplomatic ideas. First up, we have espionage. This allows transfer subject and peace treaties, so you can literally steal your enemy's subject, which is super nice. Minus 20% aggressive expansion impact, which is crazy. Plus 50% spy network construction, 10% siege ability is nice as well. You also get an additional diplomat along with minus 15% advisor cost, and one of my favorites, plus 15 vassalization acceptance, which is super useful. The policies revolve around diplomats and spy network construction. With expansion, you get minus 25% cost to fabricate claims, which is super nice as well. This idea group is super useful, and I take this early on if I play as a weak nation without many claims on my neighbors. And when I'm blobbing, the minus 20% aggressive expansion impact really comes in clutch. For those reasons, I'm gonna put this in high A tier. This could even be S tier, but I think I'm gonna put it in A. Next up, we have diplomatic ideas. You get 2 diplomats, 25% improved relations. You also get diplo advisor discounts as well as some diplo tech discount, which is not bad. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the minus 20% province war cost, which is huge. You also don't lose stability from diplomatic actions, which is super nice as well. The policies with diplomatic are decent, with most of them giving you an additional diplomat. With infrastructure, you get minus 10 years for personal union integration, so you can integrate countries in 40 years instead of the usual 50. With horde ideas, you get 10% siege ability and shock damage, which is really neat as well. All in all, this is just an S tier idea group. The minus 20% province war cost is just so good for blobbing. You just cannot go wrong with this. Next up, we have trade ideas. You get 2 merchants, some global trade power, trade range, trade efficiency, trade steering, and some caravan power, which is super nice in earning you some extra dough. Most of the policies in trade revolve around trading and merchants and power and everything. With innovative, you get minus 0.25 interest per annum, which is super nice. With quantity, you get 15% goods produced modifier, which is one of my favorite modifiers in the game for making money. You also get 10% goods produced modifier from religious and infrastructure ideas, so that's nice as well. This isn't a must-have idea for a playthrough in my opinion, but it definitely helps you with making money and scaling your income in the long term. When you reach 1700s and you've blobbed a decent bit and you have control over a bunch of trade nodes, then the money really scales heavily with all of these trade modifiers. I'm gonna put this in B tier, high B tier in fact, because it's useful but it's not a must-have if you know how to manage your income, and there are better idea groups out there, but this is good in its own right as well. The ranking for trade ideas is actually pretty situational. It will be higher or lower depending on what nation you start out as and depending on how valuable a trade node can be. Next up, we have exploration ideas. Again, this is an idea group that is fully focusing on colonization. Super niche. This is a first pick if you're playing as Castile or Portugal or any other colonial nations, and you will pair it with expansion of course as your second idea group. Along with colonization, this also has some buffs to your navy, which is really nice. The policies do revolve around colonization for the most part, but with indigenous ideas, you get 10% morale of armies as well as plus 2.5% discipline, which is really nice. This sits comfortably along with expansion ideas in B tier for the same reasons as expansion. Next up, we have maritime ideas. This idea group mainly focuses on sailors, ship costs, and naval force limit. I like one particular bonus from this idea group, and that is where ships can repair themselves when they're in coastal sea zones, so you don't actually have to min-max and dock them near a province, which is really nice. The policies also revolve around naval force limit, ship costs, stuff like that. I don't think this is really that useful unless you're going up against a naval hegemon like Castile or Great Britain for example, but even then you don't actually need maritime or even naval ideas when we come to it to win the battle, so I'm just gonna put this in D tier. Next up, we have influence ideas. We have plus 25% income from vassals, minus 15% liberty desire and subjects, plus 10% vassal naval force limit contribution, minus 25% diplomatic annexation cost, which is really nice. Then you get some diplo rep and relation slot, and you get minus 25% envoy travel time, which is super nice and it saves you a lot of time. And you also get minus 10% liberty desire from subjects development, which is super nice as well. And yeah, I almost forgot this. You also get plus 100% vassal force limit contribution, which is huge. And one of my favorites is the minus 50% unjustified demands. Let's be real, all of our wars are unjustified demands. So this saves you so many diplo points in the long run. The policies with influence ideas are amazing as well, and they're usually centered around diplomatic relations, diplo rep, liberty desire and subjects, and vassal force limit contribution. With innovative ideas, you get minus 10% advisor cost and minus 10% aggressive expansion impact, which is really nice as well. All in all, this is an amazing idea group which has use cases for almost any and every campaign, because most of the campaigns you are going to be utilizing PUs, vassals, subjects, objects, stuff like that. This definitely deserves a spot in high A tier. Next up we have Court Ideas. Let's be real, this idea group is mid. It does a lot of things like splendor and all that stuff, but it doesn't actually do anything particular that is actually worth it. The only bonuses that I feel are worth it is the plus 20% reform progress growth and plus 1 diplomatic possible policies, which is really nice. Other than whatever bonuses I talked about, the rest are just pretty mid. The policies with Code Ideas actually surprised me. They're really nice. They're not as bad as the bonuses, and it actually adds to any other idea group that you have already taken, so it's really nice. With offensive you get plus 10% morale damage. With defensive you get minus 10% morale damage received, which is super useful. Just for the policies, I have to put this in C tier, honestly, but otherwise I think without the policies it's in E tier, not even D. With admin and diplo out of the way, we have finally embarked on military idea groups. Let's start with offensive. We get plus 1 land leader shock and fire, which is super nice, minus 10% recruitment time, plus 20% siege ability, which is huge, plus 15% land force limit modifier, which is nice as well, plus 5% discipline, amazing, and we have plus 10% recover army morale speed, which is really nice as well. This is just going in A tier just because it's so powerful. The siege ability, the discipline, you just cannot go wrong with offensive. Next, let's talk about defensive. We get 15% morale of armies, plus 1 land leader maneuver, plus 25% fort defense, plus 30% reinforced speed, which is super nice, plus 33% garrison size, and plus 1 attrition for enemies, and plus 1 max hostile attrition, which is super nice as well. Defensive is good, but it's not great in terms of military ideas in general. I definitely like the morale boost and reinforced speed, but the other modifiers are okay, but they're just not game breaking in my opinion. For those reasons, I am going to be putting this in B tier. Next up, we have quality ideas. Just what an idea group, bro. We get 10% infantry, cavalry, and artillery combat ability, which is broken in my opinion. We also get plus 10% morale of navies and minus 25% naval attrition, which is super nice. We also get plus 5% discipline as a finisher. So all in all, just an amazing idea group. One of my favorites, easily deserves a spot in the A tier. Next up, we have quantity ideas. We get 33% manpower, supply limit, reinforced cost, and force limit modifier, which is super nice. We also get 20% manpower recovery speed, minus 10% regiment cost, and minus 25% land attrition, which is super useful when you're having an army composition, which is ideal to the combat with. I think I am going to be putting this in A tier, just because of the manpower and force limit, just because you have so many more troops to fight with. So with all these bonuses, you will recover your manpower and army faster, so you won't be an easy prey for other nations. All in all, a really good idea group. Next up, we have naval ideas. Okay, we get plus 1 naval leader shock and minus 1 combat penalty when landing, which is something I really like. 25% galley combat ability, which is super useful. 20% heavy ship combat ability, which is amazing. 25% sailors modifier, sailor recovery speed, and marines force limit, which is super nice. We also get plus 10% ship durability and plus 10% morale of navies, as well as global naval engagement modifier, which is super neat as well. I also like the minus 100% naval barrage cost, so it's literally free to naval barrage, but again, you cannot naval barrage every province, so it is situational. I'll put this in C tier. It is better than maritime because it just increases the fighting ability of your ships and it increases the overall quality of your navy. But if you're not taking naval ideas, you can still win all of the naval battles in the game. In my opinion, I don't use it, but it's up to you. Next up, we have mercenary ideas. This is good only if you're gonna actually fully commit to playing with mercenaries the entire game. Otherwise, this is just taking up an idea slot and it's not that worth it. There are better ideas than Merc in my opinion. This idea makes it such that Mercs don't reduce your army professionalism, which is nice. But you can also do this via a government reform, so you know. You also get some military tech and advisor discounts, so that's okay. You also get 10% infantry combat ability, which is nice as well, along with plus 5% mercenary discipline, so this will add 5% discipline to whatever your army's usual discipline is. You also get 10% infantry combat ability, which is super nice as well, and you can also drill with mercenaries, so that's nice. I'm gonna put this in high C tier. This could also go in low B tier depending on how much you like mercs. The reason I don't like it and I don't use it is because you cannot choose the army composition beforehand and you have to choose like from these merc company presets alone. So that just puts you at a disadvantage against powerful nations in the mid and late game. So I just don't use it. Now let's talk about the government-based idea groups. First up, we have aristocratic. This is only available to monarchies. We get 15% cav combat ability, minus 5% dev cost, plus 15% national manpower modifier, minus 20% cavalry cost, and plus 10% cavalry to infantry ratio, so super nice. You get a diplomat and minus 10% general cost, which is nice, minus 25% unjustified demands. Really good if you pair this up with influence, for a total of minus 75% unjustified demands. You also get plus 1 leader siege, which is nice as well. I have to put this idea group in high B tier because it has some decent modifiers and it's really useful if you want to play with a lot of cav in your army, if you can afford it of course. Next up we have plutocratic. This is available only to republics. We get 10% morale of armies, a merchant, 10% goods produced modifier, minus 5% development cost, 25% caravan power, which is really nice as well. And we also have 20% manpower recovery speed, which I really like, and 25% provincial trade power, which is super neat. It's really a money-making military idea group rather than an actual mill idea group. I don't hate it. This idea group will pair nicely whenever you're playing tall. For example, I use this in my Florence playthrough, so I'm gonna put this in B tier. Next up we have divine ideas. Now this is available only to theocracies. We get minus 5% dev cost, minus 10% fire damage received, minus 10% leader cost, and minus 33% cost of reducing war exhaustion, which is a pretty nice and unique modifier, minus 10% morale damage received, which I really like, minus 30% cost of enforcing religion through war, minus 2 national unrest, plus 15% manpower in true faith provinces, and plus 1 missionary strength versus heretics. You can pair this idea group really well along with religious ideas. I love the bonuses and how it reduces all of these damages taken by your army. That alone makes it B tier worthy in my opinion. And you also get some additional missionary strength, dev cost, so all in all, a pretty decent idea group. Next up we have horde ideas. Of course this is available to hordes if for some reason you didn't know. We get minus 33% cavalry cost, plus 10% cavalry to infantry ratio, minus 10% aggressive expansion impact, which is really nice, plus 25% religious unity, minus 20% land attrition, minus 1 national unrest, and 0.5 yearly horde unity, 20% caravan power, 25% cavalry combat ability. I'll put this in low B tier. You know what? I'm gonna put this in high C tier actually. My reasoning is it's so strong. You get religious unity, you get aggressive expansion impact, which is really nice when you're trying to blob out, but it's just so cavalry focused, man. You don't get any morale, discipline, or any buffs to your army, anywhere to your manpower, force limit, stuff like that. You don't get any buffs to that. You also cannot afford cavalry when you're playing as hordes, unless you're in the mid game. So that's why it's in C tier. If you can afford it, then definitely goes up, it goes up to B. For our last idea group, we have indigenous ideas. This is available only to native tribes. We get minus 5% dev cost, 0.01 tribal dev growth, we get plus 1 attrition for enemies, 25% reform progress growth, 10% morale of armies, 15% manpower modifier, minus 10% idea cost, minus 20% province war cost, which is super nice. And to top it off, we have 25% institution spread, which is kind of random, but okay. I really like this idea group. They have a really wide spread of bonuses everywhere, but let's be real, man. Tribes are so annoying to play with. Your game literally doesn't start until very late and you have to beat the colonizers up. So I don't think I'm gonna rank this high. It is going in D tier. And that is my tier list. Let me know if you agree or disagree with this, what you would change in this, and your reasoning for it in the comments down below. This is my second video on this channel, and I will make more videos, and more videos are in production as we speak. So stay tuned for that. Also, if you have any feedback, please let me know in the comments. That way I can improve my quality every time I upload, and I'll see you on the next one.